Hello, this is Steve from Beato's Leatherworks. Today's project is this Mephisto shoe. It's a lady shoe. It's a small size foot. And what we're going to do, we're going to resole and reheel it. But more importantly, this has seen a lot of wears and starting to tear on the side. There were some repairs done to it, but you can only do so much with that leather when it starts cracking and failing because it flexes there all the time. If it's not conditioned, the leather nutrition put back into it, then it's going to start cracking and falling apart, especially where the area starts flexing. All right, let's get started. The Mephistos are good shoes, right? They're not bad. They're not top of the line, but they have lots of styles to choose from. They're not really a Goodyear welted shoe, not this one anyway. This is basically, majority of it is all glued together. Now, the only thing that I don't like about some of the Mephistos is that they'll use a polyurethane sole, and that polyurethane sole has a life expectancy, like a shelf life, maybe 5 to 8 years, and after that it just kind of disintegrates and falls apart. I don't know if all of them use that type of sole, but the ones I've run into usually are like that. As you can see, this is just very easy to peel back. I think the heels are, nope, not even nailed on. It's just all glued on. The Mephistos have lots of stores around the world, and I think they're celebrating a milestone, like a 50-year milestone or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it's not a bad shoe. Now, this is a very old shoe, right? It's got a lot of wear. So over time, everything wears out. No matter how good it is, it does wear out. Now, we notice that there's a broken shank right there, so that needs to be replaced to give it a little bit of structural support. I mean, she wore them for a long time. I'm not sure how old they are. Maybe 20 plus years, maybe more. So there's your broken shank, which we'll replace to give it some stability. Now, you see this upper leather right here. If I can get a good, okay, this all the way around. This is what's basically torn up. That needs to be replaced. Now, you see there's no top stitches on there. Top stitches basically, stitched like that, where you see a stitch on the edge of the leather. So the way this is done is that the leather is stitched on like this and then folded over, just like that. It's almost like a French binding style where you don't see the stitch there and it's folded over. So basically we're going to have to take all that apart and replace that piece and then reconstruct the base of the shoe, and then we can attach a sole to it. All right, let's continue. Now the footbed it's a partial footbed, right? 3/4 of the shoe, and the rest is basically, let's see if you can see it. It's stitched on. See, this is part of the footbed where you step on, and this is where the upper meets it, and it's stitched on. And it's covered with this leather, and the sole comes on top of it. Now, usually, in order to be able to get to that piece of leather, I'd have to remove that so I can have the uppers kind of flat and sewed comfortably. Now, I'm not going to unstitch that, okay, because that's the shape of the shoe, and I don't have a last, basically one of these right here, the same size as that, so I can kind of put everything back together. So, but I still have to access that stitch there, to be able to put a new piece there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this right in the middle here, okay? That way it gives me a little bit of room to kind of put it in the machine and restitch the new piece on. And then I'll reinforce those two pieces together with another, like a fabric nylon piece on top to secure it so it doesn't lose its shape. The idea is after it gets done, we don't want it to change drastically, that the comfort is lost. So we want to maintain that. That's the reason we're putting the time and the customer's putting the money into it, so she can wear it, for as long as possible. So this is a size 6, by the way. As you can see, it's pretty small. It's a pretty small shoe, you know. But I think when everything's said and done, she'll get many years of use out of it. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've got the piece added on here. Next, we're going to turn that over like that and stitch that leather piece all the way around the shoe. And then we'll go ahead and fold that over like that. That's what it should look like right there. Something like that. Just like it was when it was new. All right, let's continue. All right, let's do some stitching. I got to be careful not to pull this piece of leather too tight, or else it'll change the shape of the shoe. I've got them glued on both ends, but still, while you're stitching it, things do move, and you know, then you're going to stitch it wrong. If it moves, you won't know it until after it's been done. Just taking my time to see if I don't screw this up. Oh, by the way, it's Monday today. That's why I don't have my apron on my phone, because we're closed on Mondays, and I don't have to get to the phone. I've got my dirty shirt on, so it's okay. So that's why we cut the sole. I've got my camera on a makeshift stand here. It keeps moving on me. So that's why we cut the sole in the middle, to expand the uppers a little bit so we can get around the toe area, so we can stitch this on here. Now there are some other machines that have like a longer arm, like a cylinder arm or a patching machine. But well, I think a patching machine would work better, but unfortunately a patching machine, it's not a bad machine, but to get a precise stitch, I like using my post machine. That's why I had to slice the part of the footbed in the middle to open that up. I mean, it's not difficult to stitch it, but you gotta be careful of where you're stitching it. So you want to be in the same general hole area to be able to make it look the same when it gets done. Almost over that little hump there. malfunction there. If you could only see how I have my camera posted on top of it's a thread, it's one of these basically, upside down like that. Camera sitting right on top with a piece of tape taped to the sewing machine. Unfortunately, my tripod kind of screwed up on me. My little tripod for my iPhone, and just haven't had a chance to order another one. So I'm just kind of making. I'm laughing at myself. Just making it work. It's working. It hasn't fallen down yet, so moved a little bit, a couple of times, but that's okay. I caught it. All right, the stitching is done. I'll show you under a better light. All right, let's continue. Okay. Now, I had to, this side was glued also, right? But unfortunately, just like I was saying, sometimes when you pull this leather too much, it stretches, and it was a little bit longer. Now, you see now the line doesn't match up, which I don't like, but I think I'm going to leave it. Structurally, it's good. This side is good. It's not bad. It's not 100%, but it's not bad. I think I'm going to leave this side. I mean, again, it's nothing structural. I'll just clean that up a little bit, hammer it down, finish the edge, and glue it back down. I think it'll be okay. I would have liked to kind of center that line with the original, but you know, sometimes things happen, unfortunately, and you have to choose your battles. You know, you can't win them all. I mean, if that was a structural issue, I would absolutely would have taken it apart and straightened it out. It's a visual piece, but you would like to make it nice looking, but and sometimes it doesn't work as always planned. I mean, if I didn't tell you guys anything, you'd never know that's what I was doing, you know. But it's just kind of aesthetics-wise, just to make it look a little better. That's all it's for. Other than that, I mean, it's not too bad. I'm just going to glue that back together. I'm using all-purpose cement, which dries pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and next we're going to basically secure this seam. Then we're going to glue this area and pull the leather up like this. Just like that. And then we'll glue that down to secure it. Then we'll start constructing the sole. Alright, let's continue. Alright, so at this point I've got the footbed glued. Now I try to put it into position while the glue is still wet, because you got to make sure that you're on the right spot when you're putting things back together. And sometimes when it's dry, then you can't really move things around to adjust things. Now you got to be careful when you're putting it back together. You got to make sure it's in the right spot, same spot that you took it apart from, or else you're changing the comfort, the feel of the shoe. And again, you don't want to do that, because that's the reason we are basically repairing something, to make it still feel comfortable and the same. So there's some guide marks that I'm following, just to make sure that it goes back to exactly how I've taken it apart. Just kind of reverse the process. And then these two pieces basically are even right here. So once we bring this together like that, we'll put a piece of nylon underneath it, well, on top of it I should say. Bring that back together. Now it's in the same spot exactly how it was. Just kind of tap that down a little bit. Make sure it doesn't move. And you just got to let it sit for maybe about 15-20 minutes or so until that glue kind of cures itself. Then once everything is dry, we'll go ahead and pull that piece of leather up, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, let's continue. All right, let's glue that top piece there. Now again, I want to be able to pull this piece while it's wet so I can kind of adjust it. Battery low. As I was saying, I want to be able to pull this leather piece on the uppers while it's wet so I can have, you know, a chance to adjust it. Tap that down a little bit. Just flatten down the area that was stitched. Check this side. It's a little bit crooked here. I think I can flatten that down a little bit, make it look a little better. It doesn't look too bad, but visually when I'm looking at it, can't see what I'm hammering upside down. Alright, let's see if we can do this. Okay, it's not going to work on that last. Not too bad. All right, let's continue. All right, so at this stage, I've got the shank in. That's a new piece. Folded the leather piece from the uppers over. Secured the footbed. Glued 3/4 of the other footbed inside. Okay. Now we're going to put a piece of welt on. Now, this is a glue-on welt. This is basically goes in the corner here, just like this. Okay. And the sole comes on top of that. Now, this is a rubber piece, which is very flexible. What the manufacturer put on is plastic. You see all those cracks and piece missing there? You see all that? Over time, that starts falling apart and you get cracks, and especially where it's bending right there, because it can't stretch, therefore it gives eventually and starts cracking, and very unsightly. That's what it looks like. So once we put that glue-on welt in, we're going to attach the sole, okay? Then we're going to put a heel block. Now, what the manufacturers do usually, it's a plastic heel block with a thin leather cover. So what we're going to do is basically we're going to put 2 layers of leather and then the top lift on top, so there's no peeling down the road when it starts wearing out. So just a couple of little details like that. I know you guys as consumers, you look at a shoe and you think, oh, it's great, it's made well and it's shiny and clean, but there's a lot of things that are involved in making those shoes that most manufacturers will cut corners to make it look like something it is not. It's just not this manufacturer, it's a majority of them. So unfortunately, you can't really tell those little details when you're purchasing them once you wear them for years and years and things start falling apart and not lasting as long as they should. So it's unfortunately that happens. So anyway, it is what it is. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've got the welt glued on, okay, and I filled in the void areas with this cork piece just to give it a little bit more cushioning. And then we're going to go ahead and glue the sole on. So this is the sole. Now you guys remember when we removed the original sole, just peeled it off? Well, you're not going to be able to do that with this. Once I put it on, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that from the inside, securing that sole to the uppers. So when you go ahead to peel it back, that's not going to happen. So it's going to be much more durable as she's wearing it, especially at the flexing area. Just a little extra touch that structurally makes it better than what it was before. Now, once I glue the sole on, I could leave it like that and just, add the heel base to it and put a top lift on there. But what I decided to do is to add another thin rubber sole on top of this one. When she wears through that top piece, she can take it to a local cobbler. She's out of state, by the way. A local cobbler who can just peel that off, just like she has here. She's got a piece of thin sole that's glued on top and a top lift. So once the base is secured, stitched on there, and this piece is glued on top, when this wears through, they can just simply peel this off and not mess with the foundation of the shoe at all and replace it. This way, she doesn't have to mail. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mind her mailing it back to me for repairing it, but sometimes it gets a bit too much with the shipping costs and so forth. And besides, this replacement of the top piece is not that difficult to do, so I don't think you can mess it up too bad just taking that out, putting new ones on. All right, let's continue. Just hammering the edges down, getting rid of the air pockets between the welt and the sole. Let's continue. All right, So at this stage, I've got the sole on, part of the sole. We sanded that down, and we're going to go ahead and stitch the sole with the uppers to secure that better. Now I got to tell you, sometimes this machine acts up a little bit, so I'm kind of doing this for the hell of it. See if it works or not. Let me put the bobbin in. Sometimes this is good, sometimes not so. Lately it's been acting up, so let's give it another try. Of course, now watch, as soon as I start videotaping it will act up. Holy shit. Unbelievable. It didn't even break a thread. Wow. I'm usually cursing at this thing because sometimes it acts up. And by the time I stitch one shoe, it's like 20 minutes gone by when it should take about 20 seconds. This time it did pretty good. We have a love and hate relationship, you know. It is what it is. So there's the stitch. So that goes inside of the shoe. This is called a, some people call this machine, well, not the machine, but the type of stitch, a Blake stitch or a McKay. It's not an outsole stitcher where it stitches from the outside. This goes on the inside and on the sole. That's why they call this a Blake stitch machine. It's a very solid machine. Alright, let's continue. Alright, so we've got the heel glued, the sole glued on. Now we're going to secure the heel to the shoe. Now I don't like putting top nails on my heels, just visually. I think it's much cleaner if there's no nails there. Sometimes I do with brass nails, like for decoration, but majority of the time it's all glued. Now we're going to take these, they're called, I guess, some people call them ring shank nails. I call them threaded nails. That's what it's called in our industry. It's got threads on it. And we're going to nail it from the inside of the heel, basically. So once it gets nailed on, the heel base will be secured to the shoe. That's it. Not just one. I mean, there'll be 7 of them total. So you've got to be able to secure that that heel base together somehow. Now sometimes what people will do before they glue that top lift on there, they'll nail the heel base on and then they'll glue the top lift on top, which is fine. Everybody does it differently. But I tend to glue my heel to my heel base first so I can get a nice and even sanding surface there, sand it, dye it, and then attach the heel base, the heel to the shoe. Now, that's just for aesthetics reasons, right? Because what happens is that when you glue the heel base on and nail the heel base onto the shoe, and then glue the top lift on the heel base, you've got to sand the two together right here. And that sandpaper is 24 grit, which is pretty coarse. So some people will go ahead and sand the hell out of that. We call that the breast of the heel. Some people will sand the hell out of that, but well, it's okay. I mean, it's up to them, but most of the time I'll secure that heel base together with that top lift so I can get a nice clean look right there. No sandpaper marks at all. Alright, so next time we'll see. I'm going to sand all the edges, clean and polish it up, and then we're going to get ready to ship the shoes out. Alright, let's continue. Alright, welcome back. We're done with another project. They turned out pretty good. I think the customer will be pretty happy. Hopefully they'll last for another 20 years or so. Now, this particular job was, I believe, $295. Now, some people are going to comment, oh, that's so much money, they could have bought a new pair. Yeah, they can buy a new pair of shoes. That's definitely an option. But they want their shoes to be like they used to be, if not better. They have sentimental values to them, and they want to get it done so they can wear them for many more years to come. Now, if something is not worth it, I'll be the first person to say, hey, you know what? Let's think about this. Sometimes it doesn't make sense doing all that work and putting all that money into it, and you're not going to get many years of use out of it. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Any comments, any shares, whatever you want to do was much appreciated. All right. We'll see you again next time. Take care.